The CXPod is brought to you by Netigate. Netigate helps you put your customers at the center of your business. Check them out at netigate.net.
Welcome to the CXPod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the CXPod once again. I am here today with Joanna Carr. Welcome.
Thank you, Merete, and welcome also to our guest,
Hello,
Mikkel.
Thank you very much for having me.
I've been thinking a lot about how to pronounce your last name in English, because it would be Korn. How would you even say it in Danish?
Well, in Danish, it's Korn Tved. In Norwegian, all Norwegians would put an extra T at the end for some odd reason, so that would be Korn Tved.
Yeah.
And in English, it would just be Korn Tved.
Korn Tved.
Korn Tved.
That's easy. I love. Can you just pronounce it again in Danish?
Korn Tved.
I love the last sound there. The Tved. I think it's beautiful. I am a little sad actually that we won't be speaking Danish, or you won't be. I'm not going to go with Danish, but it's a beautiful language. I think I have a crush on Danish, to be honest. I think it's so, all the sounds that you can produce and make, and you have it in your day-to-day speak. So I think everyone listening, if you ever get the opportunity to hear Mikkel speak in Danish, you should tune in and listen. Follow him on LinkedIn. We'll be leaving a link to your. This was hard today in English. We will be leaving a link to your LinkedIn page in the show notes, so that anything you do, our listeners can follow if they want. So thank you so much for coming, and a warm welcome.
Thank you.
We know each other a little bit from before. You've helped us out in the Norwegian CX network. I think you're sort of like a go-to guy, and a guy who's, at least in my experience and in my probably last 5-10 years within CX, you represent both a company and a name that I think most people working with CX at some point will come across you, I think on LinkedIn or but even so, even if you're a little famous, let's hear from you. Who is Mikkel, and why are you here on the CXPod today, do you reckon?
Sure. Well, thank you again for having me. But I mean, I don't think much of me as a celebrity in any kind of way. I have been around in this industry now for a lot of years. Actually, I started back in 1992. So that's plus 30 years now. So at the time when we started working with this, I did at least, we were talking about advanced customer satisfaction surveys and taking good care of customers and stuff. So not even the CRM phrase were invented at that time. So I've seen a lot of buzzwords coming and going over the years, but my business life, at least for the last 30 years, has been helping companies grow stronger relationships with their clients or customers, and making a profitable business case out of that. So it's basically reminding companies that if you take better care of your customers, you will earn more money. And that's obviously one of the arguments. I know we will be covering that in some of the questions also. So that is part of what we argue for. But that is all the way through.
Yeah. So I have a bonus question for you that we actually didn't prepare you for, but you'll probably be able to answer it anyway. Because why do you think it is that we have to keep reminding companies this? Why don't they ever learn?
I think we are all too busy. So there's two things. There's a very strong focus on the end result, the profit.
Yes.
So we want to try as a company to come as easily and quickly to that end result as possible. So that's one thing. Most companies are spending huge amounts of money in their marketing budgets and in their sale. So concentrating on attracting new clients, new customers to the company. Actually, I heard a phrase once in the US say that if you're tired of listening to all these salespeople calling you all the time trying to sell you something, you just need to buy something from them, because then they will stop calling you. So the idea of a very strong focus on gaining new customers, but not that much interest in keeping or developing the customers. So you take customers for granted as soon as they have entered the company, and that's at least one huge problem for most companies around.
It's like any relationship, really.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I needed to comment on that one.
But Mikkel, I am dying to know, have you seen a change in that? Because you've got such a long experience.
Yeah.
We know this is a problem, but are more companies awaking to the fact that if we work to actually maintain our customers and care for the relationship, that is a good business strategy as well?
I think that slowly companies are progressing, but way too slow, too slow for sure. I think most of people interested in the CX area would remember one of the numbers that are put on every conference presentation all over the place. So Bain & Company back in 2007 made a study interviewing senior executives, so CEOs, asking them about their customer centricity, and 80% of these CEOs said that we are truly or very much customer centric in our business. Unfortunately, Bain went out and asked the same questions to the customers of each of these companies they have interviewed, and only 8% of them were agreeing. So there was a gap of 80 to 8, right? That was back in 2007. 10 years later, Deloitte did an almost similar type of interview. And at that time, the 80% of C-level went down from 80 to about 70. And the amount of customers actually recognizing the company for delivering great customer experience was about 30. So now the gap was only 70 to 30, but still, I mean, that was a huge gap to look at well. So again, I think that over the last 5 to 10 years, we have had a massive focus on this. So everybody's talking about it. All these, customer experience, one of the latest customer journeys have been very much around. Before that, I mean, we've seen CRM, we've seen TQM, I mean, all kinds of things. And in different ways and forms, this is just about emphasizing that we need to take care of customers. And in their daily life, most businesses have too much on their plate, too much to do. And for that reason, they are, at least many of them are doing a lot of what I call checkbox mentality. So they're trying to, be able to check out, okay, do we have a customer club? Yes. Do we have a newsletter? Yes. Have we bought a CRM system? Yes.
Yeah.
So now we're actually truly customer centric. Something.
Yeah.
That's definitely
if only.
that's definitely not the case. Actually, I interviewed Microsoft a couple of years back, and they were stating that in an average Microsoft CRM customer, the company would only utilize about 20% of the functionality in that CRM system. So I mean, they have lots of great marketing automation or CRM systems or whatever, but most companies are actually not utilizing this at all. So I am more or less on a quest to try and do a lot of, back to basic kind of thing, because before you enter into all of this, but that's fun to go with all the new marketing stuff and technologies. But you actually need to start with a solid foundation within your company. And most companies do not have that.
No, I agree. And I think the foundation that you're talking to or referring to, my interpretation of that is actually the culture and the understanding of what being truly customer centric is. Because like you say, we're checking all the boxes and we're we're following all the trends and the buzzwords, but we forget to have that holistic perspective of what is it that we're actually trying to achieve here? What are the jobs to be done? How are we impacting our customers' lives? And it's I would say it's about the inside out versus the outside in perspective, right? We keep looking at it from the inside out perspective and think that, you know, a customer must want this and they must like that and they must want to be having this. But at the end of the day, we forget to actually check with the person in question.
I think, again, there's, and I'm going to fast track a bit because one of your questions at the end of this interview should be something about the financial side of things or how to look at these things. At this time, no matter how customer focused, how religious I am about being customer focused, I now realize that there are parts and very important parts of a company and in a management team that are not that interested in customers in the way that we are. So, I mean, if you want to catch their attention, you need to play their game, and their game is only kronas or euros. So, you know, you need to argue in the Excel sheet, you need to prove the business case. And at the time when you do that, I mean, challenging the CEO or the CFO on saying, so how are you grow? Have you promised growth to your board of directors? Yes, I have. Okay, how are you going to realize that? Well, I've asked the CFO to cut costs, and I've asked the sales director to sell more, and then basically we hope for a better result. That's a very poor strategy. I mean, you need to be much more detailed than this. But again, I mean, what is your churn rate? How much of your customers are leaving you? What are the average lifetime value or lifetime of a customer? So what is the acquisition cost? So what are you paying for a new client, and how long does it take before that cost is actually covered by the revenues coming in from that customer? They don't know that kind of information. So the point here is they spend a lot of money attracting a lot of customers that actually leaves before they mature and grow to be profitable. Yeah, and that's just a death spiral. So in many different respects, we need to argue our case about CX and customer loyalty in a way that resonates with the management team and their focus. Otherwise, you will not have the attention, you will not have the budgets, you will not be able to actually succeed in creating a strong customer-centric project in your organization.
Exactly. And I think, you know, we believe in rainbows and unicorns. We believe in it, but we also have to quantify them, right? And this leads us to, it's actually not a question in this sort of season, but we do have talked a lot about the shareholders and the board's sort of effect on the customer experience, because you can have even a management group or, you know, the C-suite team will be so customer oriented. But if the shareholders and the board don't recognize the fact that this gives a value, you're not going to be able to do anything. So it's time we actually start delving into that as well at some point. And I think we will try to take our responsibility here on the pod, but it seems to be very clear that the job isn't done as soon as we reach the C levels. We have to go even further and reach the
I've had a number of clients, also a couple of Norwegian ones, where I could see a massive change to the amount of efforts that are put in this customer-centric business development initiatives, depending on the CEO. So, I mean, is the CEO actually leading the way? If that's the case, there's a lot of things that can be done. Even people that are not that interested in this area of work, they will still follow because the top dog is actually, you know, leading the way. As soon as that person leaves or for some odd reason are not there anymore, we can see a lot of change going on. Suddenly, everybody sort of falls back into their normal roles because there's not a C-level pointing in this direction, asking us to prioritize and stuff like that. So also back in the days when we met first, we did this CX manager survey in the Norwegian market, actually in the Danish markets as well. And what we concluded there was we asked all the people, so who are you referencing? So who do you reference to? And we could see that the people that said they were either reporting directly to the CEO or even board of directors, those were the ones with the most highest impact. They in other questions answered that they were actually very successful in their work. If they were so main responsible for CX would be somebody in reference to, say, a marketing manager or marketing director or sales, something like that. So, and a couple of levels further down in the organization, that would definitely make a change. But again, this is not something that should be owned by one department or a person low in the organization. This is something that should be given a lot of attention, a lot of resources to work with. So
absolutely.
That's definitely part of my.
I've actually got those statistics in one of the ebooks I've written, Mikkel, so maybe we can share them in the notes or as part of the blog post later, because it is, I think it might have been my customer that did the research, and it was quite drastic.
Of course, I mean, everybody is busy, so what gets measured gets done. You know, that's just how it is. So if this is not of the attention, or at least more attention than other important stuff, I will focus my resources elsewhere. That's unfortunately how it is.
And this reminds me of an episode we did quite a few, I think even more seasons ago, with Bjarte Buksnes from Norway, but he's talking about beyond budgeting. And, you know, the fight that you have to do every year to get a budget to be able to sort of perform and realize your initiatives, including the customer-centric initiatives, right? So if you can't prove the effect beforehand, you won't get the funding to even try it, right? So it's easier to prove a case that, you know, when it comes to sales, because it's specific numbers, it's easier to sort of quantify on that. But when it comes to demonstrating the effect of CX, and we've talked so much about return of investment, and we're trying to sneak in the COI term, which is cost of inaction as well. Like, what does it cost us to not do anything? But also, what does it cost us to have the approach that we have today, or to not have, right? So we need to, but Bjarte talks about how we can redefine the whole budgeting process and actually sort of have a better way of spending the company's money on the right initiatives without doing it once a year.
A key word here is content. I think too many companies are content with the results that they are actually delivering at this time. So I mean, even if they can produce some quite impressive numbers, I'm like, okay, but is that because of what you do or despite of what you do? I think that's also something. So I wouldn't be satisfied with even an above average or perhaps even top type of results if it's obviously that you could actually do even better. I think it was back in 2023. Every year the Forrester comes out with the Forrester CX predictions for the coming year. I think it was back in so late 23. So the predictions for 24, I think it was there. They said that they would expect a fairly large amount. I think it was at least 25% of CX projects to be closed down for one reason primarily, and that would be that the responsible people in the project could not argue for the business value of that project. So I think that is very, very important to do this, and sometimes it's actually not that difficult. I mean, one of the arguments or one of the examples that I put forward sometimes, this is official data presented at a conference. So one of our clients, a broadband company, they had the difference between a promoter and a detractor on a monthly basis. The profit was 40 kroners more on the promoter over the detractor. And the average lifetime of a promoter was 15 months longer than the average of a detractor. So now you can just take these two numbers and add them up with the amount of customers in each of the three segments. And then you can start, discussing, so how ambitious should we be? How many percentages of our red detractor customers should we move? Let's say we move 3%, 5%, something like that. What would that give us? That would be one part of the equation. And then the other one would, of course, be, so what are the main reasons for detractor customers being detractor customers? So what are the main reasons for being red? And if we are to try and fix that, what would that cost? I mean, what kind of projects would we run, and what would the cost be of running those projects? So now you have a very simple business case to prove. So I mean, you can do that much more complex, but that's actually a fairly simple thing to do.
I think it's absolutely great that you took the part of the last question straight away, Mikkel.
It's Joanna's favorite question as well.
It is my favorite question. So, but I think there's some key learnings here, and also the fact that you need to be working to prove the fact that if you manage to capture how you've earned the company money, or how you've made the company more efficient, then you will also be in the position to seek or attract new funding for the next initiative. So I think, and as you say, Mikkel, my experience as well is that far too many just don't have a 0 point. They don't know where they are.
Yeah,
exactly. Unfortunately, one thing is they don't know. That's actually not as bad as they think they are much better at this than they actually truly are. So the fact that they can realize that I don't know where we are, that gives us the opportunity to say, should we find out?
Have a look.
Yeah.
The biggest problem seen from my side is the companies saying, we have this covered, no problem, we are really good at this. And then you can start like, okay, but what about this? And what about that? And then after a period of time, we can then make them realize that they are not as customer-centric as they think they are.
Thought they were, yeah.
This is actually this is not to be any kind of marketing or sales pitch here, but that I got so tired of that kind of discussions with the management teams. So just in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, when there was a bit more time on our hands, we sat down and said, listen, we're now going to develop a maturity assessment. So we actually now have an assessment. Say, listen, I mean, no matter what you say, let's do this first. This is interviewing both the management team, but also the employees. So you will now see the gaps between the perception of management team and the perception of the frontline personnel, but also the gaps within a management team. So even within the management team, they are not aligned. They are not, having the same opinion on how good we are.
Exactly.
So when you can prove that, when you can disclose that, then you can provoke and say, listen, guys, if you're not even aligned with this, how should the organization be able to run with this project?
Yeah, and this brings me back to the first question, Mikkel. And I have a feeling this is going to be one of those episodes where we cover most questions because we just cover them without even asking, right? Yeah. But I do want to dive back. On the
screen, so I'll try and cover them in some of my feedbacks.
Yeah, that's fine. That's our responsibility. But really, I just want everyone to know, because you're saying so many smart things, and I just want people to know your background and what it is that you do, because we actually didn't get to that part. So,
So
what's your role and where do you?
What's your expertise?
First of all, originally I'm financial trained. So before I got into this, I was actually had my initial training in a bank. I think that left me with this financial perspective from day one. So the idea of, money doesn't come easy. I mean, at least they have never come easy to me. So I've been working quite hard for my money. I want to treasure these money, and I have the same perspective from the companies. So, I mean, are you just wasting money right now, or can you actually prove to me that this is the right thing to do? So that kind of thinking, I was brought up with that early in my business life. And then in early 90s, I then started working on this, originally on the research side. So I was part of a management consulting company, working with customer satisfaction and focus in Norway and in Denmark. And so it was really early days on this. So what we did was doing more complex or more advanced type of customer satisfaction surveys, because the surveys at that time, they were really, really poor. So that's where it started. And then over the years, this has developed. But I mean, I am the founding partner of Loyalty Group. And so I gave up my notice from the original management company back in 1995 or something like that, and then started Loyalty Group in 1996. So we've been with Loyalty Group now for a lot of years also. And Loyalty Group is a management consulting company focusing only truly on customer-centric business development. So, and I use the phrase customer-centric business development because we want to address very holistically the idea of what a company needs to be truly customer-centric. Because too many companies are offering you a piece of software or some kind of training or something, and then they promise you the world of being customer-centric, and that is not the case. So I will actually be preaching an idea on a very broad definition of how to be customer-centric. And we at Loyalty Group cannot deliver anyway near all the different things that a company need. So you could say, I take the position as an architect. So if you want to build a house, you don't just call the best craftsmen of the city and ask them to come to the build site and start building a house. That will go terribly wrong. So instead, you need to sit down with somebody and talk to them and say, so what kind of house are you planning to build? I mean, what are your limitations? How do you want to set it up? And then at the time when you have a blueprint, then you can call all the people in the good people in the city and ask them to come and build that house for you. So I think that is part of what we do. So we are the architects in some way, at least. Well, we offer that service. Then, as the specialists, we have always said that we make our advice, our advice based on solid customer insight. So we are very much focused on securing the right type of insight. So we have a research department, and we do a lot of surveys of different kinds. So we do a lot of analyzing on both existing data from our clients, but also surveys or data that we collect for that company also. So the foundation of my house, my customer centricity house, the foundation of that house, seen from my perspective, would be insight. So you need to have a solid foundation of insight, and then you can build all your different customer-focused processes or products or something based on that. I have for more than 15 years been an international judge in what is called the ECHO Awards. That's the World Championship of Direct Marketing or Segmented Marketing. I'm not a very creative guy. I mean, I can look at these campaigns and I can judge them, but my interest to this is the individual approach to customers. So I need to have the insight or the data to be able to deliver a unique experience. And that can be on marketing, of course. So marketing automation with truly segmented communication. It can be in sales. I mean, making sure that you're actually approaching the right customers with the right type of arguments, prioritizing, the right customers. So there's a huge difference between a rescue strategy for red detractor customers, a developing strategy for neutral yellow customers, and then another type of strategy for holding on to the green promoter customers, for example. Okay. So treating all customers equal would be devastating. So if you want
I love how you divide that. Sorry to interrupt you there, Mikkel, but I just love the way you divide it into, the rescue team that comes in when it's burning, right? And then it's the team that sort of established, you've got something good going, but we want to help you perfectionize that. And also, how to attract new customers based on what you're actually offering. Because way too many companies don't think about those three.
No, I'll tell you a secret. As long as you're not sharing it with all your listeners.
Yeah, sure. We promise. Yeah. We promise.
Very good. Okay. So when I look at the market, I basically see three different types of companies in the market. when I look at the market from a loyalty group or even a professional perspective. I would see three different types of companies. In one end, I would see the companies extremely successful. I mean, really top of their game. Those companies have an attitude that, I mean, they will never settle. They will always look for better. So even though they're the best, they will still every single day wake up and try to do even better. So that's in one end. In the other end, there's the type of companies that are completely broken. So those are the ones that have tried whatever they could think of to try and, you know, save the company in customer satisfaction terms. They haven't succeeded, and now they are desperately in need of some kind of help because, you know, it's like the gun to the head, right?
Yeah.
From an advisory perspective, the last part is not the most interesting ones to work with. You can earn a lot of money trying to help them out because they're desperate. But I mean, the problem is they're desperate or they're committed for the wrong reasons. Yeah. Because they are scared. They are, you know, forced to do this. But that's on the other end of the side. So the best ones and the worst ones are the ones that are actually open for business for somebody like me. And then there's the last of the three segments, and that's the middle. And that's what I would call, you know, the brown segment of fat cats. So those are the ones saying, listen, we're doing great. This customer thing, we have that covered. That's good. We are really good at that. And those are the ones I mentioned just before, saying, listen, okay, let's start. Do you have you tried? And when did you last time do this? So unfortunately, this last segment is the majority. So I wouldn't put, you know, numbers on it. And then again, perhaps it's at least 60, perhaps even 70% of all the companies that unfortunately are way too self-confident in what they're doing at this time. They should be much more humble. And the interesting part is, I mean, I love working with these companies that are truly great. I was in Amsterdam last Tuesday with a company. They are, you know, doing their first global voice of customer program. We're running that for them. So 89 countries, 10 different languages for the first time. And the customers just love them, but they still want to do better. I have another new client that just came in. That's luxury summer houses. So rental of luxury summer houses. They have 5,000 luxury summer houses that they rent out here in Denmark. Listen up. They have year to date an NPS score of 93. I say that again, 93. They have been in business for many years. We've just received data for the last 15 years. So a massive amount of data. They are doing so great. I mean, I'm actually sort of challenged with what can I help you with, because you're doing really good. But my point here is they are still looking for improvements. They're still looking for how can we do even better.
Yeah, that's where we want to be, right?
The three different segments, and we need to do something about the middle thing.
I think the middle thing, and you know, I'm risking provoking some of we know we have an increasing number of listeners in the US. And you know, with the U.S. election at the moment that we record this, is coming up, but probably when we launch the episode, the election is actually in the past. But you know, it's the guy who keeps saying that everything that he does is perfect, and then for some reason the slogan he uses is "Make America Great Again." But what is it that you're going to make great again if everything you do is so perfect? You know, it's just so delusional. And I think these companies may be in the same sort of category without comparison, of course. But I was just, you know, when you spoke there, my thoughts immediately went to, no, we got this covered. You know, we're good at this. We got this. Yeah, I'm not sure you do.
But here's the point. No matter if you think you have this covered, you should have the urge for trying to do even better.
Yeah, you should be the ones, the first companies you talked about, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
and at least be willing to look in the mirror, right?
No, I mean, the world championship in 100 meters sprint, the best sprinter in the world, he still gets up every morning, practice, and try to beat that record.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's definitely a problem that a huge amount of the market is not realizing how important, how much impact, financial impact, a more structured and a more structured focus on customer-centric business development, how that would actually change their company to the better.
Yeah. So Mikkel, I need, and we're sort of starting slowly to approach the end of the recording, but I want to have your take on then, you know, with your background and sorry.
I thought we were just starting.
Yeah. I've got a few questions here. I'm just thinking about.
Yeah, I'm just reminding us that, you know, my job is to try to keep us, you know, at least not. So the way this is going, I felt that sooner rather than later, I needed to mention that. So that's the strict host here.
Yes.
So what I wanted to ask you is, and this is obviously based on, you know, your extensive experience within the field, but also it's like a combination of two questions really because of everything that's going on today with new technology, right? So where are we on the voice of the customer programs? Like insight, where are we on that? What is your thought on that? Is it here to stay? How is it going to go in the future? Like, will we stop needing fetching insight from our customers, or will it still be very crucial and relevant to how we develop our customer journeys and customer experience in general? What is your thoughts on this?
Oh my God, yes. First of all, I think all the predictive modeling that has been around now for almost decades, you know, either you project a small portion of your customers' feedback and say that now this is actually covering everybody. That's definitely not optimal. But of course, if you're doing nothing, technology alone will be able to give you a lot of things. I mean, so I'm truly of the impression that we will be working with a voice of customer program. But again, this is a buzzword, right? Sorry for that. So this is another buzzword. What are we talking about when we talk about a voice of customer program? Is it only that we collect data? So are we creating the strongest voice of our customers based on what? Attitudinal questions asked in a questionnaire? Is it transactional data from our ERP systems? Is it feedback from our customer service representatives? Is it, you know, I mean, all kinds of information. Have we actually gathered that in a way that makes sense? So when I talk about a voice of customer program, it's not just a set of questionnaires or surveys run. That's part of it. Definitely. We do that. I mean, we run surveys as part of a customer voice of customer program. But it's very much before we actually ask the first question to the first customer, we need to be aligned on, so who are we going to ask? What kind of questions? When? For what reason? What are we going to do with the results? So all of that needs to be designed first, and then we can start collecting data. And when we then have the data, how will we ensure that we go from data to insight to real action? I mean, we need to have that process in order as well. So making sure that when we are fed with these kind of data, they basically flow into the marketing systems, the sales systems, the customer service part, and we are using that in our daily work to make the lives of our customers even more good.
Yeah, I love that you say that, Mikkel. Sorry, that you say that you need to start with designing it, because I think so many people or companies maybe do not start because they misunderstand what a voice of the customer program is, and it's a means of understanding your customers, but the way that you design your program can absolutely scale or change depending on the type of company you are, the type of need you have, the maturity of your company. And I think voice of the customer programs can be designed differently many times within one single company, it depends on what you're trying to achieve and what you're going to do with the data, as you say. So
to be a bit provocative, I think Frederick Reichheld, I think it was back in 2007 when he wrote the article in the Harvard Business Review, the one number you need to grow, and all the net promoter scores.
Yeah, the ultimate question, right? The book.
Yeah, well, the ultimate question came after. I think the first one was an article in Harvard Business Review, and then the book came out later on. But the point here is,
fun fact.
I have never, as in zero, conducted a customer survey only with 3 questions. So only with would you recommend and why and what should. I mean, that is, seen from my perspective, not good enough. I mean, in all surveys, we do ask that question. I mean, so we have that as part of it, but we need a lot of other types of questions also to be able to diagnose, truly diagnose. And I'm not talking about the open verbatims and how we can look at this. I mean, even, well, I think you have had some on your podcast with some of the surveys tools. And you know, there are some AI tools that can interpret some of these open verbatims. But when I meet companies around, I think I've found 1 or 2 that are truly utilizing this at this point.
So and I hope, just to interrupt you right there, because we actually do have a sponsor on the show, and the CXPod is sponsored by Netigate. So Netigate is a part of what used to be Lumwa and Netigate. So they're one company now. And they are actually utilizing AI and the open-end comment sort of analysis to both. So they will do a sentiment analysis, and they will also sort of categorize it. And the last time I checked, they were actually able to understand how much your NPS would increase or decrease by fixing one or more of these categories, right? So we're starting to see some funky new technology out there that enables us to not bother our customers too much, but we can get the essence out of what you're saying without digging and asking 95 million questions. So just a little shout out, because you were so nicely putting it out there for me, to our sponsor Netigate, also for helping us make the CXPod and be able to create this content.
I would truly love to see some of these cases, because unfortunately it's the same with AI in customer service chatbots and stuff. I mean, everybody's talking about it, and very, very few companies are proving a great case for this at this point. I mean, that will come, of course. But your question was how will the voice of customer programs, how will they develop? I mean, will they go away? No, definitely not. Will they change? Well, as soon as the technology can help in some way or form, that makes a lot of sense. But you definitely need also to go beyond and behind whatever the customer tells you. I mean, you need to do driver analysis, mathematical tests and stuff like that. You cannot just rely on whatever the customers are telling you, because they are also humans.
Yeah, I love that you point that out, because I think, you can have as great as your voice of the customer program as you want, and as great as, the vendor can be as great as you want, but you also need to have the capabilities to do the analysis, right? And to transform it from data into actionable insights. So that's one thing. And then it's also about how you utilize the tools, because I think some of the tools are actually quite good. But like you said, if it's not measured, it doesn't get done. So if nobody in the organization cares about how you do measure or how you do fetch the voice of the customer, then it's not going to be done in a good way. So I think you actually need to invest in some competencies right there to understand how do you go about it when you create a survey. It's not just to write a random sort of bunch of questions down on a note and hand it over to marketing and say, hey, we want to survey this. You need to have professionals, and I think that's been under communicated.
Valued.
So customer experience and customer insights, it's not something that just anyone can take on and say, hey, I'm an expert on this, as much as many C-level guys or women want to believe that. There is an expertise out there, and I think we need to utilize that a lot more. So that's me ranting on.
Good,
but yeah, I used to work for one of these companies as well. So I think this is great that people get to hear. So we're sharing a lot of nuggets today, Mikkel, from and I love.
I would like to. I think we've got time for one last question. And Mikkel, if you've got anything else you'd like to put in after this question, then I would also love to hear you do that.
For the first time in the CXPod, we're actually giving you the microphone.
Yeah.
To say what you want.
But you've worked with so many companies. You've seen these buzzwords come and go. But from your experience, what would you say are the attributes of a truly customer-centric organization?
Good one.
Well, I think I'll quote. At least I'll start by quoting the co-founder of Metro Bank, Anthony Thompson. And I met him first time actually at the Dialogue conference, so the conference in Strømstad every year. And he was presenting. He was this was his third startup when he started this bank in the UK. It was the first retail bank in 125 years developed in the UK market. So that was really, really unique. It was his third startup. He was a marketing guy. He had no experience in the financial at all. So what they basically went out and said, we want to build a bank that is truly different from all the other banks. So we'll take away all the things that people hate with their current bank. So they needed, of course, to build an IT system because and there are a lot of regulations when you're in finance, right? So they sat down and they built a bank in a box, new type of software, but it was all, as he referenced once. I sat in on the IT meetings. I don't know much about IT, but every time we were to make a decision, I was the guy raising the hand, say, so what we are about to decide, is that for the good or the bad of the customer? And if it was the latter, we needed to go around that once again and find something else. So that's one thing. So after his initial presentation at the conference, a couple of people from one of the largest Norwegian banks, I'm not mentioning any names, they basically raised their hand and said, listen, this is great. I mean, we're from one of the biggest Norwegian banks and we would love to do something like this. What is your most important recommendations? I mean, how should we do something like this? And he said, you need to start a new bank.
Yeah.
So this was a very long introduction to your question. So I would say culture is something that is extremely important, and trying to change the culture of a truly product-centric type of company, that is definitely something that will take a lot of time. It can be done, but it needs a lot of attention. And most product-centric companies will not, focus on trying to change that long enough to see that actually come through. So culture is definitely one thing. I mean, how can you either develop from the ground up or nurture a change in culture? I think that's important. So again, hire for attitude, train for skills, that kind of thinking. And then, of course, as we've covered before, also a truly strong leadership leading the way. Also, I mean, this is something. And again, just to give you one idea, I am sick and tired of talking to a lot of companies. And when I ask them, could you please show me your customer strategy? They would just be blank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can have my marketing strategy or my sales strategy or my product strategy or my, strategy, all kinds of strategies. And within each of these strategies, there will be a part of that covering customers. Okay, so our marketing strategy against customers, right? My religious approach to this would be, you need a one customer strategy. And within that strategy, we should talk about how marketing support, how sales support, how, and so on. So, because we are here only for the reason of customers. I mean, and if we are truly not trying to make the best possible company to support and develop our relationships with those customers, I mean, we are at least missing out on something. And perhaps there's a new bank in a box suddenly appearing somewhere and basically taking the market in something like this.
I think that actually happened. I think the bank you're referring to, we're of course not mentioning names, but recent events have shown us that at some point you're gonna screw up, and we can say that because it's our own podcast, so we can decide if we're allowed to use those words. But I mean, and definitely there comes a newbie. And wow, did they get so many of these customers because they effed it up big time, not taking seriously the effect the merger would have on their customers. So I think, and then again, not all banks are doing mergers, and but I think everyone should have like the rear mirror and look, is there somebody behind there who could come and steal all of our customers like this if we don't pay attention? And if the answer to that is yes, I do believe you need to have the strategy of all strategies and the mother of all strategies, which is the customer strategy.
Well, a couple of years back, somebody told me that the second largest bank in the US was Starbucks, something like that, because they have these prepaid cards. So basically a huge amount of people pay them, put in money
a huge amount of money,
on these prepaid cards. So actually when looking at that, they were like a massive one. So sometimes it's like, okay, who is actually the new competitor taking over the market? Is it Amazon? Is it Starbucks? Is it a garage, project or something? There's all kinds of different types of challengers in this market. There will always be somebody who will be needing to fight for market shares. And then there would be the fat cats that are basically sitting there and trying to hold on to whatever they originally got, and perhaps not realizing how hard they need to work on that, keeping customers, keeping business.
This was an absolutely fantastic way to end this episode, I think. And
that's famous words.
And you can expect that I'm going to quote you on a few of the things from this episode here, because it was such an engaging and insightful conversation together with you, Mikkel. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and all your years of experience from this field.
You are most welcome. It was truly fun.
Thank you so much. And, we probably will invite you back in a future season to talk more about these things. For now, we're going to have to wrap it up. Please follow Mikkel. We're going to leave, like I said initially, or at least I tried to say, we're going to leave the link to his LinkedIn page in the show notes. And otherwise, keep an eye out for anything regarding Loyalty Group, because they're doing fabulous work. And we're excited to see what the future brings for them as much as we are for you, Mikkel. Thank you so much. You have been listening to the CXPod. Thank you for listening to the CXPod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn. And please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.